There's a difference. Come on up. What's going on, Tommy?
What's going on, sis? How you doing?
I'm well, honey. How are you?
Good. Now, I am in complete agreement with you in all, because that's what it is and whatnot. But I do have a question. My question is in regards to when we see our women coming into their power, into the divinity, which please do. I also see in my experience and other brothers like myself where, unfortunately, it appears as if you have our women coming into their power, and now, which is crazy, our women are now putting their men, even the men who ain't had nothing to do with it, in the same category of the things in which they've experienced, which is kind of, how do we balance that out? How do we not create another war of the sexes, if that makes sense?
Well, I'm gonna say this: you already know we got a war of the sexes, because that's what this is all about.
Yes,
it's not about race. It's about the stifling of the divine feminine,
exactly,
of feminine energy, because that's really what's going on around here. So, first of all, you got to understand, men were here to protect women. That was solely your purpose, is to provide for them and to protect them. Period. And they were here to create, civilizations and nations for you, and to give you spiritual guidance. And so again, there's a deconstructing, as women grow into their power, is going to challenge men's power, because it goes against the status quo of this patriarchal system. This system was built male-centered in order to be centered around the male, not to be centered around the woman. And that is an imbalance. That's what's created the imbalance that we see in the world today.
Agreed.
That's what creates the imbalance that we see in the world today. Now, you're talking about women healing, right? Because you say you don't want to have to pay for what happened to her in the past, essentially, is what you're saying.
Pretty much.
Okay, so it goes to everybody has to do the work to heal. And this is what I tell you guys, once you guys have healed, and I've done the work to heal, like my childhood, which was rife with, sexual abuse, that was rife with physical, mental, emotional abuse. I have healed so far past that, it's like it never even happened. Like I said, when you start to do the work, I don't hold it against my stepfather. I don't hold it against my mother. Hell, me and my mother, we've reconciled the relationship to where she's part of my ancestral court. Like, when you have done the work to heal, there's nothing to hold against anybody. The triggers, the pain has been addressed. So it has nothing to do with women coming into their sexuality or their feminine power. It's about everybody recognizing, if you hold trauma. This is why I tell you guys, get your birth chart, do your reading, so that you can understand what you're here to heal. And once you start to heal those things, they no longer become a trigger. Right. So that's how you don't want to be responsible. Then help her to heal, and you heal yours. You heal. That's how you don't have to do that. Exactly, Miss Sharon. It's your own project. It really is your own project. So again, I'm gonna say this: if she's being triggered by something that you're doing, you might want to sit down and ask her about that experience, and then you might want to become cognizant not to trigger her. Because if this is your woman and you care about her, it's even like sort of what the Bible always said. You don't want to stumble others, and you don't want others to stumble you. So you walk with them according to knowledge. Even the Bible says, men, deal with your wives according to the knowledge of who they are, according to knowledge. So if this is your woman, Tommy, and you know that she's been through some things, one of the biggest gripes that women have about dating and coming into, a relationship with the man is, if I tell you my past, if I tell you about the abuse that I suffered, that, I used to get the shit beat out of me and things like that, that you'll turn around and you'll hurt me with that. Mm-hmm. Don't do that.
Right. I get that. The challenge comes into play where there can be things that come, like, say we're going about, just a normal day, right? And you're just doing whatever, just doing your normal everyday things, and things that can trigger you that I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
So now something happens where I might say a song came on and I touched your hand, and now you poof, and you're in that moment. You're in that void at that moment, and now you snap at me, and I'm like, wait a minute.
So in that moment, let me ask you this: in that moment, and you see your woman triggered, you know that you didn't do anything to intentionally to hurt her. So it must be a trigger point for her. So give her some time to one, snap out of it. When somebody's triggered, you're thrown back into the fucking trauma, Tommy.
Correct.
In that moment, it's sort of like fight or flight. It's survival, but from a mental standpoint, not so much a physical standpoint. So then, when she comes back out of there, ask her about it. Say, honey, I noticed that when I touched you or this song was on, you had this visceral reaction. If somebody is having a visceral reaction in front of you, that's a dead giveaway that you're triggered. It was interesting. I wish Alba was on here. Alba and me, we had a reading, and we were talking about some of the things in her past. And I said, this is where we have to go in order to really do the healing. And she had a visceral reaction that I had never seen in Alba. I mean, she was like, no. I mean, very, very strong. And I gave her a moment, and I said, I want you to understand that feeling of panic you just had, that's a trigger. You're triggered. I said, so anything that makes you feel like that, we've got to explore that. We've got to explore, because that's where your healing is at. Your healing is past those triggers and into the void of what has hurt you. So when she has come out of that, because they'll come out of it, then it's like they'll snap back out of it. When they come out of it, have that conversation. I've never seen you react like that, and I want to know why. Because maybe, like you said, she hasn't told you everything. Because maybe some of the shit she's gone through, she's fucking ashamed of.
Agreed.
She's ashamed of. And so she's got to know that she's got a safe space in you, that she can go through these moments of trauma, brief trauma, and you'll still be there. Could not be so defended when grace is needed. Exactly. So, again, I had to learn that. I had to learn that with my mama. I told you guys, when me and my mama had that conversation, after she passed away, and that medium brought her in, and we had that conversation, and something said, just listen. And then the medium said, just listen. And I was so triggered, and I wanted to defend myself, my pain, my hurt. And I just had to listen to her truth. That's what I had to do. I had to sit there and listen to her truth. And then in doing that, I had to realize, like Sammy said, I never gave her grace. Because I was hurting. And, like I said, the one thing that my mother said that was so profound in that conversation, she said, look, Ricky, this shit is not personal. Meaning that what I was feeling, although I was feeling it and I had experienced it, it wasn't done to me because of something that I did. It was a lesson that I had to learn, a contracted lesson that I had to learn. She said, this shit ain't personal. It's spiritual. It's spiritual. What am I not over? Okay. Yeah. Well, again, I'm going to say this. Tommy, you're going to have, look, if you are stepping into the role of being this woman's protector, because I know you're in a new relationship, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're stepping into this role of being this woman's protector. 9 times out of 10, especially if she's a spiritually gifted and profound woman, she's going to have gone through very hard things.
Agreed.
Very, very hard things. And so, just like you just came out of a very bad marriage, and you got your own trigger points, each one of you guys are going to have to walk softly, and grace is needed. When she goes through that, it's not personal to you. It's not an attack on you. It's spiritual. That just tells you that there's some healing. And when she feels like she has a safe spot in which to open up and blossom, she will. So you just have to be that. Okay, so I hope that helped. I hope that answered your question, because like I said, that what you're talking about is that somebody has to heal. And I feel like once a person's healed, like, one of the things that my last relationship, he used to say, he was like, he was used to women arguing and fighting with him and going at him, and he used to call them hell on wheels. And I told him, at the end of the relationship, I said, you'll never be able to call me hell on wheels. because I didn't show up like that. I recognized that he would do things in his immaturity because he didn't know. One, he didn't know better. His parents had died early on in life, you know, in his early teens, and you know he was really literally raised by the army. So this man really had no emotional capacity that somebody who has gone through something, has grown through something. He was on survival robot mode most of his fucking life. That doesn't mean I want to be with him, but I had to give him grace. And like I told him, no, I'm not going to. I said, even in us breaking up, I'm not going to dissolve into, yelling, cussing, fussing, and hitting. No, I'm not doing all that shit. I'm not doing all that shit because one, I've truly healed, and two, it's okay if we're not together. I'm okay with that because sometimes you don't be with the person that you're with. It is what it is. Correct. And that's okay. The shit's okay. But it takes somebody who's healed to not go tit for tat, not to take shit personally, and to just recognize, okay, somebody needs some healing, and maybe I've healed past them. And if I want to be with them, I may have to slow down or allow them to catch up. So that's up to you if you want to allow them to catch up, if you feel like it's worth it. To me, it wasn't. Because he would have slowed down my progress because he was a brick wall. And I said, bro, you're going to be a brick wall for a long time.
Fortunately, that's not the issue as far as being a brick wall and whatnot. That's not the issue at all. I just know when I've seen these triggers and whatnot. Some of them we've been able to communicate about, honestly. We've been able to communicate about those. And then others takes me completely off guard. I'm like, what the, who? And trying to manage that in order to be that safe space and not be, and not allow it to affect me where it triggers me and I feel like I'm being attacked. That's the issue that I'm trying to make sure that I'll be able to balance out with that.
So I'm going to say this. When somebody triggers you and you're triggering each other, because it sounds like you're triggering each other, the lesson is this. You got some healing to do too.
Oh, agreed. Oh, I know that. I'm a daily introspective of myself every day, so I don't point the finger at someone when I know the three fingers pointing back at myself. Hell no.
Exactly. And so maybe she's put there to I'm gonna say this. Let me explain what a trigger is. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. That's all a trigger is a mirror. It's like somebody holding up a mirror and saying, look, that's you. And you see that. It's sort of like what I told you when Dale came and I said, he showed me how I show up in this world, and I didn't like it. It triggered the fuck out of me. It triggered the fuck out of me. And I noticed that when people trigger me, that visceral, like I said, that visceral reaction I was talking about, when I get that visceral and I know what it feels like, and I'll reflect on like, okay, yeah, this is what is it? What is this person here? What is this mirror shining back at me here to show me? Start thinking of it that way, because maybe you guys are soulmates put here in this situation to trigger each other to heal.
Leo Sagittarius.
Yeah, to heal. So, don't run from it. Don't run from it.
Oh no, I embrace it. I'm embracing it. I'm definitely embracing it.
Sorry guys, my nose is still running.
And I didn't purposely walk into the situation. The situation walked into myself. So that's why I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe because that was the furthest thing from my mind was getting into a relationship. It was the furthest thing from my mind upon meeting her. So, I wasn't trying to get hooked up with nobody. Wasn't none of that.
Well, I'm going to say this, encourage her. And that's part of the divine feminine, journey is to heal. You're not going to get to the heights of the divine feminine without it. And like I said, when you see that visceral reaction, maybe you should come up with a safe word and be like, when I say this, I'm seeing something that I haven't seen in you, and I'm seeing something that is obviously painful for you. And in that moment, take a break so that she can kind of come down. And then you guys can have a better conversation. But trying to have a conversation when somebody's triggered, it ain't going to work. Don't try it.
Right.
Don't try it. She has to kind of snap back out of it. I know I used to get triggered a lot. And like I said, my triggers were based off of, you know, how people would talk to me, because it would put me in the mind frame of how my mother used to talk to me, how, you know, the abuse that I suffered at the hands of my stepfather. It was a lot. It was a fucking lot. And so I had to work through a lot of those. It takes a lot. People are, you know, and it's so funny. It's so funny now, because people will literally try me. They will try it and try to be, as I said, you can go as low as you need to go, but you ain't gonna hit these emotions, because I don't have any towards this stuff. I don't have any towards this stuff anymore. And that's when you know that you've had real healing. It doesn't affect you anymore. People can poke that wound, and it's healed over. It's healed over. It's no longer open. The problem is that most of us are open wounds.
Right.
I haven't done the work to healing. I tell you guys, time doesn't heal all wounds. Healing heals all wounds. Healing does. Doing the work, digging deep. So yeah, once it's healed over, you know, there's going to be a period of time where it's scabbed over, and it may feel okay, but that scab is very sensitive. It's not until that scab has been removed and that new skin is formed that the healing is complete. And even then, there may be some deeper layers that are still healing in the process. So, you know, again, some wounds take longer, and you have to have grace. You're her protector. You're her centurion guard. That's what you're here to be. And once she has developed into that divine feminine energy, she is going to be your spiritual guide like no other. So.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. If you know where I'm at, Tommy. If you need me, you know where I'm at.
Yeah. You definitely dope. So,
well, thank you. But like I said, yeah, just have a little, you know, just have a. I don't want to say sensitivity, but just have grace. That was the best word. Thank you, Sammy. You have grace, because that's what I had to. I had to learn grace in dealing with my mother. Like I said, my mother was, by all accounts, the catalyst for all the abuse that I suffered. She knew. She let a lot of stuff happen, and hell, she was also had a hand in it, and I had to give her grace, and that was probably one of the hardest things I had to learn. So you may have to give grace, even when you may feel like, no, you coming after me. Yeah. So
yeah, and that now that part has been the difficult part, because that's a trigger for me, if that makes sense, because I've always had to be the one to take the bulk, change the energy, and try to circumvent certain things. So then now it became a point where, well, wait a minute, when are you seeing me?
Yeah.
Like, you got all this stuff for everything else, but when do you see? And that's one of my triggers.
Yeah. So then what you need to do, you might need to set real strong boundaries so that you're not disrespected, and just, you know, take your leave. It might the boundary might be like, hey, when you have this reaction, I'm leaving. I'm going to take some time for myself, because I don't want things to go too far. And I want to give you time to reflect that this is not acceptable. That behavior is not acceptable, especially if you're coming back to attack me. It's not acceptable. Agreed. So don't sit there and accept somebody's bad behavior because they ain't learned how to heal. Don't do that. Don't do that. Like I said, you know, in that moment, you know, in that moment when she is, you know, in full uprise, take your leave. Agreed. And allow her, because she's got to learn for herself how to control her triggers, how to navigate her triggers, not you. You're not here to teach her that. Her healing is her healing. And, you know, again,
I took that as, that's a mistake that I've made in my life. I took up, even with my ex, I took her healing as I have to teach her how to heal.
Nope.
That's a mistake that I made. Yeah, that I did that all the time. That's a reflection of my life, honestly. I took on the attribute of, I'm the protector. So since I'm the protector, I have to teach you how to do that. That's something that I've done, and hurt myself in the process.
Yep. No, as a protector, what you're here to do is to protect her from outside influences. And during the time, it's sort of like, you know, when that butterfly goes into the cocoon, you stand guard over that cocoon. Inside, the transformation that's happening inside has nothing to do with you. You don't have a part of that. You're not in that cocoon. That's her business. So no, again, give her space, let her know I still love you. But what we're not about to do is to start to damage each other because we're already damaged.
Right.
So
Agreed.
So I hope that helps.
No, it makes complete sense. Thank you very much. It coincides with a lot of the things I've read and given me further insights on things that some of the work that I'm doing right now. But I lean on you for that confirmation of those things, and I appreciate you for it.